Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Steve Austin Show is brought to you today by our friends at BetOnline. Get ready, folks. WrestleMania 36 is coming your way this weekend. Get in the mix at betonline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne for your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
Hey, what's good? Welcome to the Steve Austin Show. My name is Jake Warner. I'm one of the producers here at PodcastOne. And as you all know, WrestleMania 36 is upon us. I think it should be a national holiday, but I digress. We wanted to hear from you, the fans, and get your thoughts and predictions on the upcoming WrestleMania 36. Now, for those that enjoy placing a little wager, if you will, then check this out. Go to betonline.ag for all of your WrestleMania 36 betting needs. That's betonline.ag. So we wanted to hear what your thoughts and predictions were for WrestleMania 36. So enough of me. Let's hear what you had to say.
Hey Steve, this is Grayson Black. I'm up in Northern California, originally from Tennessee. Huge fan of yours. I just wanted to call and give some thoughts on WrestleMania 36. I gotta say, I think it's gonna be interesting. You know, about 5 or 6, 7 years ago, me and my dad would always get the pay-per-views. Grew up watching you and The Rock and everybody. And I've got to say, this is the most interested I've been in it in a long time. And, you know, it's just the nature of the situation and just trying to figure out how the hell they're going to pull it off, what it's going to look like, and what they might try to do. So, you know, I listen to Jim Cornette's podcast, and, you know, he's right. It could absolutely be the shits, and maybe they should have just canceled it. But at the same time, they've got an opportunity to do some pretty cool stuff and to really control how things happen and actually make something kind of cool out of it. So I got to say that for the first time in about 10 years or so, I might be actually paying for WrestleMania. So we'll see if it's good or not. Thanks.
Hey, Steve, this is old Sean Frost here. You're walking thoughts on WrestleMania. I think it's going to be really interesting just because of not having the crowd there and how well, especially SmackDown, seems to have been doing without the crowd there. It's like they've loosened up, you know. It's like they're not just going by the numbers, which SmackDown didn't really feel like it was all that much. Yeah, it's something different. And, hey, Undertaker's there, so I'm pretty much good. All right, talk to you later. See ya.
Hey, this is Jeff Beers, man, talking WrestleMania, dude. I'm excited. There's going to be lots of great stuff, man. Dolph Ziggler, that's going to be cool. Bayley, then the Sasha match, that's going to be awesome, you know. Tag team partners against each other, that's pretty cool. Goldberg, you know, I'm excited for that. It's going to be really awesome. It's going to be 2 days. I mean, what's better than one WrestleMania, but 2 WrestleManias and, like, a whole weekend. It's going to be great. Going to be drinking some past fruit in there, watching WrestleMania. It's going to be great. I'm super excited. Right on, man.
Hey, Steve Austin. Short-time fan, long-time listener. Calling in to give you my thoughts on WrestleMania. But thank you for ZipRecruiter. Thank you for promoting that because it really came in handy. I can meet clients via the web, take no chances. So thanks again for ZipRecruiter, fabulous product. But back to WrestleMania. I think we should give the fans what they want. You know, desperate times call for desperate measures. And I think what the people want is Matt Riddle versus Goldberg. He doesn't have to win, but I think that'd be pretty cool if we got Matt Riddle versus Goldberg.
Hey, Stone Cold, man. This is Lex from San Diego. I appreciate the WrestleMania content on WrestleMania weekend. Got 3 thoughts here. Number one, do you think that they should put the title back on McIntyre for Lesnar, or should they just wait for another event to do that? Because I think McIntyre's got the potential to be a big superstar, and I know Brock will put him over nice if he's in a good mood. Also, do you think Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, I think that might be potentially the show stealer of the show. I think that this could be a potential maybe, Flair, Steamboat, next generation kind of thing here, as Rhea's the young up-and-comer, as Flair is the established superstar here. I think that's great. And lastly, do you think that they should have put WrestleMania, they should have moved it later to the summertime to get it a big pop, do like a big 2-day event? I know a lot of people online were talking about that. Love the 316. Love your Broken Skull IPA, man. Shout out. Hope you guys are safe, too. Thanks.
Hi, this is Matthew from the state of Washington. I was calling in at the Steve Austin show to share my thoughts about WrestleMania 36. This show is going to be a really big card. I was really looking forward to the match between Edge and Randy Orton at a last man standing match. I think Edge is going to go over since he's a babyface, and, Randy Orton has done a lot of despicable things against Edge in storyline-wise, even attacking his wife, Beth Phoenix, for the RKO. I also think that AJ Styles might be pulling over a win against The Undertaker, considering Undertaker's had AJ Styles' number over the recent weeks, so I think they might do an upset where AJ somehow miraculously gets a win. And for my final match stop for this card, because there's so much card and, I just don't want to take up too much time, but I think John Cena is going to go over Bray Wyatt again because this might be his last WrestleMania and he's going Hollywood. So thank you, producer Sean, Steve Austin, for taking my call. Look forward to the show of shows and look forward to hearing myself on your podcast. Thank you.
Hey, Steve. Hope you're having a great day. Just wanted to call in, give you my thoughts on WrestleMania. I think it's actually going to be great. This is an opportunity that they could take and they could turn it into possibilities for future. Like, this is a WrestleMania where it's going to be taped, it already is, but they've also taped multiple finishes. So if they really wanted to, they could do a WrestleMania elsewhere next year or the year, later on in the future, have it overseas, and then tape the rest, finishes. Yes, there's going to be a crowd, yes, but if you film it in such a way, I think it could go off. This is also an opportunity for them to say WrestleMania is now going to be a 2-day event, because NXT is now considered main roster. So basically you got Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. You have NXT TakeOver the night before WrestleMania. So why not change that and make it WrestleMania Part 1 and WrestleMania Part 2, 2 days in a row, and include the NXT talent on the WrestleMania card? And, get away from the TakeOver. What arena would you have it? I'd have it at the same arena. I wouldn't have the first night in a small arena. I would have it at the same arena. Yes, it might be more costly because you're running the same arena 2 nights in a row, but it wouldn't be super costly. The fact that they had to rechange locations, it's the same location. You have the stadium rented out for both of those nights because you have the set there. You had the stadium rented out for 3 weeks, I'm going to guess? 2 weeks to set up and then 1 week to take down. So you already have the place rented out. I just think it'll be great to have WrestleMania 2 nights involving all 3 brands. And we kind of have that this year with the NXT Women's Championship on the line. It's the first ever time that an NXT title has been on the line at WrestleMania. Even though it's not going to be a big stadium, still, it could change to where WrestleMania is 2 nights, including all 3 brands. I think that's where it's going to go, and I think that's where it should go. Because WrestleMania last year was 7 hours plus pre-shows. That's too long to keep someone's attention. And if you break it into 2 nights, having 1 hour pre-shows like they are this year, I think it'll be great. If you have 2 nights, 4 hours per show, you could even do 4 hours per show, make it an 8-hour show. technically, that'd be, 10 hours? Yes, it'd be long, but it'd still be broken up. And you could digest what you had yesterday and enjoy it the next day. So that's my thoughts. I think it's going to be great. I think they turned a negative into a positive.
Hey there, Stone Cold. This is Alex from Paducah, Kentucky, man. It seems like watching Raw this week that there's a good chance that we'll see the American badass version of The Undertaker. And my prediction for WrestleMania is we'll see him on a motorcycle in some capacity. I don't know. Having said that, I'm a major fan of the Dead Man character. I didn't really enjoy the American badass thing that much, even though I'm a mark always for The Undertaker. I just wanted to ask, which version of The Undertaker do you prefer? I know you guys are buddies and you worked a lot with him in both ways. But anyways, love the show. It's really helping during this coronavirus bullshit. Thanks, Steve.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
With currently no NBA, NHL, or MLB, you might think there's nothing to bet on. Well, you'd be wrong. This week, WrestleMania 36 takes center stage for a mammoth two-night event, Saturday, April 4th and Sunday, April 5th, hosted by the Rob Gronkowski. Our exclusive partner, BetOnline, has all the WrestleMania 36 action, including a fascinating match between an established superstar and a star in the making trying to climb his way back to the top. John Cena versus Bray the Fiend Wyatt. Cena was ready to step aside, but Wyatt has poked the bear and now has to back up his talk. Wyatt has no room for error and needs to put away Cena on his way back to the title shot. Cena would love to have the spotlight one more time. Cena versus Wyatt. It doesn't get any better. Go to BetOnline for all your WrestleMania 36 action. Every match, all weekend long. Visit the website or use your mobile device and join today to receive a welcome bonus with your first deposit. BetOnline, your online WrestleMania 36 wagering solution. My special guest today is WWE COO Triple H. I'm proud to have him on the show. Everybody was ticked off because of what went down in the Royal Rumble. And seemingly, it's a funny situation because Roman Reigns won the Rumble. He got the right to go to Mania and face Brock Lesnar. But a large part of the audience was behind Daniel Bryan. They wanted him to get that shot because he was stripped of the title. But he got eliminated early. So I guess the thing is, there's so much confusion to me with the fans, or not confusion, but it's almost like kayfabe has died.
Yeah, I mean,
because how do you book this thing? Back in the day, you would watch the product in the ring, and whatever happened, that's what you got your heat or your satisfaction from. Now, if the story doesn't go the way that people want, then you have people saying, oh, they're mad at behind the scenes, the writers. So how can you book in a non-kayfabe business these days?
It's tough. I think that's the hardest thing that you have to do. And, you talk about keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going on. There is that different component of the internet and people being smarter to the internal workings of the business. The second they see us getting behind somebody and starting to push them, I think is that, there's a group of fans, and I hate to use the term because I think it's overused and people complain about it as like the vocal minority or whatever. It's not a vocal minority, but listen, you know as well as I do, back in the day, with the exception of a few guys that were really, really in the upper echelon and just over no matter what, you or certain guys, there were towns that you went to that you knew they're heels. This is a heel town, right? They're going to like the bad guys. You're going to not being as enamored with the good guy. A white meat babyface was dead in the water in those towns. Right. In essence, you were a heel. You're 90% of your run, right? But you were the heel that was against the establishment, and at times changed. The way people look at it changed, but that component of just telling a storyline and people accepting that storyline for what it is as a storyline is gone, because a large portion of your audience just buys into that. And then another large portion of your audience, they know everything that goes on every 5 minutes of every day. They know more about what's happening sometimes than we do, right? And I think you get to a point where they just want to go the opposite direction, or they want to see a certain thing. They believe a certain type of thing is what works. I can tell you, when they're towns now, at TV, and they're giving Roman a hard time, and they're booing him out of the building because they believe that's the push he's getting. But then you go to, and then just this past week, the live events we were at, there wasn't a person booing him in those buildings.
Well, it's interesting because, he goes on to win the Royal Rumble. And I was in the same situation way back in '96, King of the Ring. And, you were originally going to win that thing.
Yeah.
The click hugged in MSG, Madison Square Garden, broke kayfabe, and you took the hammer, and they put the punishment to you.
Yep.
I won the event, and I got a big push. And when Vince came to me and said, hey, man, in 2 weeks, you're going to go over in the King of the Ring. And I said, okay, cool. Now, I didn't say to him, hey, man, there's been guys here that are been here longer than me, so maybe they should do that.
Yeah.
So when Roman Reigns gets the word that he's going over in the Rumble, what's he supposed to say?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. He's
Yeah.
like, hey, man, I don't think I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
This is a business where sometimes you got to put your big boy britches on and go to work. And a portion of the crowd feels like he hadn't earned it yet. And so when the finish went down the way it did, and maybe they could have booked the finish a little bit better in his favor and overcome different odds. And I mean that with due respect to all the guys in the ring, but made him work for it a little bit more than he did. But he ended up getting the heat out of that and the resentment from the fans because they were mad at the writing staff.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to, the beauty of what makes WWE work is they're one man calling the shots, right? And that's Vince. And it's the beauty of what we do, because unlike places where there's been booking committees or a large number of guys setting things up, when you have one guy calling the shots, trust me, that Royal Rumble was debated and, poured over and gone through with, and there was a lot of suggestions. The beauty of it is you got one guy that takes all those suggestions, boils it all up, and that's the direction you go in. That's Vince. And that's Vince today. And is he perfect? Nope. Am I? No. Is the writing team? No. There's a lot of ideas. We choose what we think will be best at the time, and we're trying to read where everything's going to go. But he'd be the first guy to say, he doesn't always make the right call. But that being said, you know him as well as I do. He got a pretty damn good track record.
That being said, was tonight a reflection of him having his finger on the pulse, and what transpired happened?
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden we've got Daniel Bryan, who had a hellacious match with Seth Rollins. Shout out to both those guys putting all on the line tonight. So Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns in Fastlane, and the winner goes on to face Brock Lesnar. So then, he took the pulse at the Rumble. There was some, was it the, man, I even hate to say the smart marks, but everybody's smart these days.
Yeah.
So they jumped on the bandwagon early. And so this is Vince reacting, having his finger on the pulse, and making another move to play another card.
Well, I think you can look at it however you want, as far as saying the business has not changed. A smart promoter, a smart booker, a smart story writer reacts to, you and I did it in the ring live every night, right? We never talked about stuff very often. We just went in the ring, and if they weren't buying something that they bought the night before or whatever, we went in a different direction. We made an audible, we called an audible, we went in a different direction. That's what this business is. That's why, to me, it's the greatest form of entertainment there is. We can change directions at the drop of a hat. We can also work that direction. We can also make them feel like we're going away, get them another way, move a certain way, and people can look back at it afterwards and say, well, they would have done that if we didn't do this. That's the way it's always been. If they don't cheer for Hulk Hogan and go crazy for him in Minneapolis and do all those things, Vince doesn't bring him here in order to do what Vern wasn't doing with him. You know what I'm saying? Right. And to make Hulkamania happen. Was he listening to those fans? Absolutely. He was calling all that stuff as it went. Same with you.
Right. Watching that crowd tonight, I was wondering, who would get the strongest reaction, and both guys got strong reactions. I was back here and couldn't really hear the full effect of the crowd, but it's supply and demand. And it seemed like for a time there, people really wanted Roman Reigns, and they were giving him Roman Reigns. And then, not so much. Daniel Bryan comes back, and they want Daniel Bryan, and you got a supply of each. Then they started demanding more Bryan, and he kept giving Roman. And the people started getting a little hot. And again, he got the resentment towards that.
Yeah.
So it's
tough. It's tough. It's a tough environment now. It's a tough, people will say all the time about Cena, I read that all the time. Because don't we listen? People are tired of Cena. They don't want to see him anymore. They don't want to see this. There's such a long period of time where half the people were booing John and half the people were cheering for him, but he was packing arenas.
Right.
He was selling more merchandise. He was more popular than ever. Everything that we did, John was so far ahead of everybody else from a reaction standpoint. It doesn't matter if half the people hate him, half the people love him. I think that there's it's difficult now to find the person that every single person, from young to old, from teenage kid, the Attitude Era, in a little bit of it was almost easier. We had a tight demographic. We knew what we were looking at. We were looking at kids. We were showing them, the things that.
So what are you looking at now?
It's different, right? Because you've got a 10-year-old kid sitting in the crowd, an 8-year-old kid sitting in the crowd. Next to him's a 22-year-old with all his buddies that are they want to see something totally different. But then you got the mom and the dad, and then you got the grandparents. We go across every single age group, every single race and religion and everything else. You cross so many barriers that it's hard to say, oh, this is the one guy that everybody's going to like this guy. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to like that, and then he's the good guy, and that guy's the bad guy. Because half that crowd's going to like the bad guy. Half that crowd's going to like the good guy. Almost worst thing you can do right now is make somebody a good guy.
But in today's day and age.
Yeah.
But you brought up the Attitude Era just now, and when I go back and back to our glory days, my glory days, you're still around. Just the show.
I'm hanging on by a thread.
Hanging on by a thread, but you're still here. You got a few good years left in you, kid. It just seemed like that show and that time, and maybe it's because I'm behind the times, had a little more sense of urgency. You had to watch to see what was going to happen. There's just y'all call this the reality era. How was that born, and what does it mean?
I think what for me when we kind of said it was the reality era, because you said it when we came on the air. Kayfabe's dead, right? And that. They'll believe in the storyline to a degree, but then they know the reality on the other side of it. And even if you don't go, here's the thing: you don't even have to go look for the dirt sheets before. When for us, dirt sheets were the sheet that you had to figure out somebody else that knew how to get it, so you could order it in the thing. Right? It was really an insider deal. Now it's not. Now Grantland is in some way that the newspapers, the Miami Herald and all these major newspapers have reporters that are giving you the inside of the business. So the reality of it is, it's almost like the reality is the business now. And kind of the backstage and all that stuff, it crosses over so much so that you can't deny the behind the scenes anymore.
But are people more concerned with what's going on behind the scenes and what's going on in the ring?
Sometimes. When we don't tell the story well, and from a story standpoint, whether that's bad writing, bad execution, bad whatever, when it's not told well, they don't buy it.
People are critical of the writing.
Well, critical of the writing and critical of the execution, especially when they know the reality of it. And when you try to write something that totally flies in the face of the reality of it, there's a large portion of them going, come on,
Right. But people want to go along for the ride.
Absolutely. And that now is the magic of trying to take what happens. And, when you really look at what we did from a storyline standpoint, Daniel Bryan's eliminated early, Roman Reigns goes to the end of the Rumble, and he ends up winning. To your point, years ago, you just follow that storyline, is what it is. GC must be good. He won at the end. The reality era says that, no. They're pushing Roman Reigns. I don't want them to push Roman Reigns. They were holding back Daniel Bryan because whatever reason they want to believe that we hold back Daniel Bryan, it's a funny point in time, even when we were during the the 8-10 month build to WrestleMania of whatever that was for Daniel Bryan. And did we change where we were going with it? Was where we started where we thought we were going to end up at WrestleMania? No, we changed it as things changed along the way. But there were periods of time when I can remember, Daniel even saying, like, I can't succeed tonight, guys. Like, I know that, everybody's, like, they're getting so fed up with it, but this is the wrong time for me to succeed here. I think you guys should kill me again. And you know what I mean? Like,
right. So he was feeling it.
Absolutely. And that's the funny part. But during that period of time, you don't want them to, you can't have them go that way. So it's working the work of the reality. Right? It's a weird, you could get, I feel like sometimes it's like it's like the Terminator thing. Like, wait a minute, he was born before he died?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But again, that's what was so interesting about how angry the fans were coming into this thing, and then watching tonight's episode of Raw. It seems to, I think I haven't seen my Twitter account, but it would have quelled any feelings of resentment towards Roman Reigns, who's had a good showing tonight. He's a damn good kid. He's got a great look. He's going to get more experience, but I think he shined tonight, and the way the finish went down with him coming out and hitting that spear and causing the chaos that he did helped him, and he needed that.
Yes, absolutely. And again, that's part of putting your finger on it, right? What does he need? And, the business is like a puzzle, right? And the more pieces you have, I'll say this, I hear people say all the time, well, Roman's not ready for that, so he shouldn't get it because he's not ready for that. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but to me, nobody's ready for that.
Right.
And I don't mean today. I mean ever. I can look back at it and say, you think you know what that spot is. You think you know what it means to be that guy. And you think you know all those things. And then it's a totally different world when you get to that show the first time and it's on you and you going, hey, what was the what were the numbers tonight? Because if that house sucked, that's on you. If it rocked, that's on you, right? That's how you look at it. You put a whole different world of pressure on yourself. And then, I feel bad for, I shouldn't say I feel bad for it because it's always been this way, but like once people see you're going in a direction, then everybody wants to be a part of that. So everybody starts to get in your ear and tell you a different way.
Right.
Hey, you should do this. You should do that. You know what? Hey, try this.
And how many of those suggestions are qualified?
Right. Probably very few.
Yeah.
Yeah, very few at best. And it's hard to filter through that as a talent to say, like, that's where it's difficult is you have to say what is meaningful to me in these suggestions and what is not, and how do I take them and apply them to what I do in the right way and trust your guts. But when you're not sure of your guts, because you haven't been doing this long, and that's what everybody forgets about these guys. You haven't been doing it long, some of them. It's hard to trust those guts, so you start getting this thing, and then you start getting mixed up, and then you start doing your care. Oh, I'm going to do it this way this week. Oh, that didn't work. I'm going to do this. Oh, my God, they're turning on me. You start being your own worst enemy.
Man, when you're thinking, you're stinking, is what a buddy of mine used to tell me, and it's just got to become as natural or organic as it can be. We were talking earlier, and you said, had you won King of the Ring in '96, you wouldn't have been ready.
Right.
How did you know when you were ready?
Well, I thought I was ready in '96.
Yeah.
Right. If you'd asked me then,
yeah,
I'd have said, hey, damn right, I'm ready, and I can do this right now. Looking back on it, when the curtain call happened and I got the punishment, and then, okay, I was supposed to win King of the Ring, which we talked about, and then I was supposed to go on to this program with Sean, and that gets taken away, and you move into the spot. You were ready. I can look at that now objectively and say, you were ready. You were so matured as a talent and knew where you wanted to go. You'd gotten to that point. You knew what you were, where you were, and how you wanted to get there and go. And you were ready. I wasn't. I'd have failed. I would have dropped the ball in '96. Bad. When it came to me later, when I got the opportunity years later, I can look at it now and say, was I 100% ready? No, because I don't think you ever are fully. But I was a lot more ready. And I can even look at it now then and say, yeah, I knew that I had developed much more of the skill to take that. I don't think I would have succeeded.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how the story keeps unrolling as we get towards WrestleMania.
I tell you what, that's the thing to me is like, this is the thing. It always makes me laugh is like, we are the book that never ends. There's always another chapter. So the book never ends. So when people go, well, they can't do that, you got to do that today. Where are we going tomorrow?
Right.
You don't know where we're going tomorrow, so you can't fully knock today, right? It's because the book never ends. Even when you get to WrestleMania with the Daniel Bryan moment and all those things, you get there, but then there is no off season. It's WrestleMania, and then the next day you can't even go enjoy the party because you got to get up and do Raw the next day, right? So you go to Raw the next day, and the story continues on. We couldn't see into the Daniel's going to get injured and the way things are going to go. So all you can do is deal with it live and continue to change and move the pieces to where they can. But the story never ends. So, and that's a beautiful part for us. You can constantly just keep revisiting it and constantly keep tweaking where you're going.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on Podcast One.
According to ZipRecruiter research, nearly 3 out of 4 employers say they're finding it difficult to fill open positions. 68% of employers have raised their wages. 23% have increased their benefits. If you have a difficult role to fill, no matter what your industry, hire with ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Steve. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job sites, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. You can even add screening questions to your job listing so you can filter candidates and focus on the best ones. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter find a quality candidate through the site within the first day. And right now, to try ZipRecruiter for free, my listeners can go to ZipRecruiter.com/STEVE. ZipRecruiter.com/Steve. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
You know, I was on the network doing research on you. I watched Thy Kingdom Come, the DVD set that they did on you. It was about 2 hours and 41 minutes, and it was awesome.
It was one promo. One. I did it.
But it was, I've known you for, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, well, I met you in like 92, 93. Yeah,
and we hooked up and were
right away.
Friends from the get-go.
Yeah.
And as well as I knew you and respected your work, I just didn't know a whole lot behind you.
Sure.
But I look back, and when you were 5 years old, you fell in love with the business.
Yeah.
And then it just became your passion.
Yeah.
And I found out, you studying the cameras and studying monitors and doing all of that stuff. And then you had the in-ring career that you had, and it still proceeds to this day. And you're going to leave behind a legacy that anybody would be proud to claim. But I always wondered, and you ended up marrying Stephanie McMahon, but that was just by chance of an angle. What was your exit strategy from the business? Because the boys always have a hard time exiting the business. For me, you need to ride off in the sunset because of an injury. What was your plan?
I think for me, I don't know that I ever would have looked at it and said exit strategy, but honestly, I think I can look at it right now and say if none of the Steph stuff happened and I didn't meet her, and people bring this up a lot, and it's a criticism of me or a knock on me, and that at first bothered me. Was it's hard this is a tough business, and then when you get that and like all of a sudden everything that you've done is negated, and then I got past that, and
But criticizing you for what? For your relationship with Stephanie?
For having what I have because of, right? If I never met Steph, if I never married Steph, I never would have been the guy.
You didn't earn it.
Yeah, I didn't earn it. I didn't any of that stuff, and Taker was one that said to me one time, he's like, "What do you care? What you worry about what they think? You know what you do. You know who you are. You know what you do. If you shouldn't have a problem with it, because the truth is the truth, and none of those people know." And I got past that, but that criticism being there, I think that if I never met her, I'd probably end up in this same place. Not exactly the same place, but I'd still be here. I'd still be behind the scenes. I'd still be doing this work. I had this. It's funny when you start. think probably like anybody in the business, you start in the wrestling business thinking you're going to avoid having a job. Yeah. and you go down this path, and then you think like, like if I was lucky enough to make a bunch of money, you make enough money that you can retire, maybe open a gym or do something, right? And then you're good. But then once I got into this and I started to see the backside of it, I fell in love as much with the creative and I was fascinated with, it's like, I didn't realize watching it when I was a kid. I thought guys just came out and talked and then fought and then they, that's it. I didn't realize there was this process to it and all these cameras and
the making of a wrestling
product. Making of it and all the stuff that goes into it and the creative of, even now just of coming up with guys' entrances and, how they're going to do this and helping them with the music and the set design and what their stuff looks like. And I started to fall in love with all of that. And Vince, I guess he probably saw that in me, that I had a fascination with that, and I talked to him a lot about it. This was long before Steph, and he gave me that opportunity to explore that. I remember, we started talking a lot about writing, and then him inviting me to come to a production meeting, and I was fascinated with that process of how it all boiled out, and then sitting in a room, even with Pat, and the meeting would be over, and Vince would come up with some, like he always does, some kind of crazy angle that he wanted to get done, and like nobody could figure out how to do it. And he'd be like, I just booked the stuff. You guys figure out how to do it, right? And then I just had to sit there with Pat and try to like debate and hash out this thing, and you'd get to somewhere really good, like, oh my God, we figured it out. Like, this is awesome. And then, so that passion for that was as much fun for me as, listen, there's nothing like being in the ring, getting in the ring with you and 15,000 people going banana, and just tearing that up. There's nothing like that. But now, for me, and I can say this with all honesty, like the jazz of me going down to Florida with these kids in NXT and that system and seeing the light bulb go off for a kid and help creating something with them and helping them to develop and even, my hat's off to Vince for letting me have that and saying, to sink or swim or fail or succeed on my own without having to have that input and having to have that fallback to go to him and say, what should I do here? Of just kind of doing it has been so great to me, and partly, it's funny. There's a lot of times I don't go and ask for things with him just because, for me, ego-wise, like I want to try to prove myself with that and prove like I can kind of do this and I don't need that maybe. So but that jazz of that whole thing of that creative for me. So
you thrive on that.
Yeah. And exit plan wise, because I tell you honestly right now, it's good, but
you're roped in for life.
Yeah, but it isn't. I mean, I don't have to do it.
No, because you love it.
Yeah.
You're a lifer.
Yeah. That's the thing to me, like when you retire, we talked about this a little bit before, like passion of what you're doing with your days and all that stuff. To me, Vince used to say it sometimes, and I think, like he'd say that whole, I never worked a day in my life,
Right.
But you watch him, he's the most, he's just a workaholic, but he doesn't, he means that.
That's when he's happy.
He just loves this so much that it's not work. And I'm kind of the same way, I go down to Florida or even here, I work with the kids here and do all the stuff here, and you get so into it, like you forget to eat, and then the whole day goes by, and it's like, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock already, I haven't eaten, and you're so into it.
Yeah. You're talking about Florida and NXT. It gives us our first Twitter question. All right, Triple H, with the WWE Performance Center, do you think it's beneficial when talent goes to wrestling school, then to the Performance Center, rather than the Indies?
So, it depends on the guy, I think. I've seen guys that never watched this product before, like Kurt Angle, who was probably the fastest guy I've ever seen pick this business up, ever, right? I mean, unbelievable. And that's just, because he was a phenomenal athlete, but also he just had an aptitude for it. Sometimes you take a guy that's been in the Indies doing that, and it's harder sometimes to knock the bad habits and that stuff out of him than it is to take a kid that's never done this before and maybe was a huge fan his whole life and teach him how to do it from scratch. It depends on the guy. Some indie guys come in and they're a sponge. Some indie guys come in and they just, this is what I do, and I'm not going to do what you do. And this is how I look at that. I've told this to guys before, some of the guys that aren't there. If football's football, but if I'm the Patriots and I bring you in, I want you to run my playbook. You could have played for the Jets. You could have played for the Giants, the Seahawks, yeah, whoever it is, and you've run their playbooks and you know them. And I'm not going to debate styles or anything, right? Japan has a different style. All these places have different styles. I'm not going to debate what's better, what's not. That's not the point, because at the end of the day, it's what fans like or don't like. We know what our fans like, or at least that's what we try to give them, right?
Right.
So we want those guys to come in and run our playbooks. As long as they're open to that opportunity to come in and take what they do. I'm not trying to change them wholesale. I'm trying to get them to do things in our way that our fans love. And, people can say different things about the business or styles or all that stuff. Most successful company in the world, one company, most successful company in the world, that's the WWE. It's global. It is, it is what it is. So
it's a monster. It just keeps thriving.
Absolutely.
You brought up NXT again, so let's talk about that's your baby.
Yep.
And I got on the network and started doing my research, and I had been hearing everybody on Twitter talking about how good of a show it was. I started watching. It started off with the Revolution pay-per-view, saw some outstanding matches and some great work being done in the ring. So y'all are accomplishing great things down there. We're looking for talent to come here. But that show in and of itself is awesome. I love the lighting.
Thanks.
I love the organic feel. I love the wrestling that's going on in there. I love the promos. I like the way you start the show. I mean, it's not always a 20 or 30-minute, promo.
Yeah.
Try to set a hook. I talked to Vince about that last time. I know you got a 1 hour show, but how did you model the template that you now follow? Because it's a winner, and people love it.
In some ways, I try to do what I would want to watch, and I try to do what I would like, but I also try to listen to the fan base. I also know who that show is geared for. It's shown on the WWE Network, which there's 1 million subscribers to, but the majority of them are our most ardent fans, are a bit more hardcore fans, are young adult males, is where it kind of skews, right? So I know what my core group is and what they're looking for. At the end of the day, I'm giving these kids opportunity. I try to script stuff less, promo-wise. I try to let them learn and let them find their own voice, let them make mistakes and learn from it, right? I have the luxury of what we don't have here. I have the luxury of doing that with a smaller microscope on it. And, here, there's no forgiveness. And it's high stakes. The pressure's on, and you got to succeed or fail immediately. And that's tough. There, it can be looser, it can be a little more fun, and it can be clay. But really, the beauty of what's set up down there is, like we talked about camera angles and all that stuff earlier. Until I'd come here, I didn't even, remember coming up here one time, they told me, look at the jib camera, and I was like, the hell is a jib camera? Yeah, I never heard that word before. I don't know what is happening. They were like, the one on the dolly that'll roll by you, right? Okay. You have to learn all that. When you come to NXT, the beauty of what we do in Full Sail is everything is the exact same. Cameras, the angles, the ramp, the setup is the same. So you're learning that same system so that when you get into Raw, SmackDown, hell, WrestleMania, it's the same setup. It's just in a much bigger venue,
right? Now, is that just still a developmental territory?
So, yeah, because I don't know anybody that's in there that doesn't want to be up here on Raw or SmackDown. So, yeah, to me, they're all there to learn and they're all there to develop. At the same point in time, though, I think we've created a bit of an alternative brand. And that's what I like about it. My goal now is to put NXT on the road. I want to give these guys, as well as I do, where you really learn this business is TV's different. You got to get on the road in front of crowds, and you got to do this every night. Some of those guys have been indies doing that, but doing what they do, right? it's funny. There's some guys down there, Finn Balor, who, as Fergal Divot, was all over the world wrestling for years and success in Japan and
tons of talent.
And tons of talent. I was working with him, and we were working on his entrance and all that stuff a month or two ago. And end of the day, he was like standing in the corner. He like looked shell shocked, and I went over to him and I was like, "All right?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I'm a little overwhelmed, I got to tell you." And he was really just saying, "I've just never had anybody explain any of this stuff to me before." He said, Japan, they just said go to the ring and do your job, and I didn't even know there were cameras or where they were or what we were supposed to do. It's a whole nother world.
What is the creative process down there? Because when I came to WWE, they wanted to call me the ringmaster, and I talked with Vince on the phone. He gave me the infamous sales pitch. Bad idea, but it was an opportunity, and that's what he says he always gives, opportunity. I turned it into Stone Cold. When you came, they brought you in as the Blue Blood, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. So, and it was a work in progress, and you evolved into the mean, tough Triple H guy.
Yeah.
And that process, that evolution, no pun intended,
how
had
did
to
that
happen.
not get over?
Yeah. So what is the process with the kids down there? Do they have a design on anything? Can they pitch things to you?
Absolutely.
What is the creative process?
They're massively part of the process, and that's the thing down there. It's a whole system. When I say developmental, too, it's developmental for everything. We're teaching camera guys. We're teaching lighting. Look at some of these guys. Look how old they are. Look at them. They're not going to make it long, right? We got to train some younger guys now. So we're training everything, but those kids are all a part of the process. Dusty Rhodes down there working on them with promos, and we're working with them in the ring. I'm constantly watching. I have a feed in my office to the Performance Center, and I can watch everything they do. So if somebody's doing something new, they want to show me something, I can take a look at it. I'm buying that. I'm not buying that. That works. Try that. This is different. You get a lot of input, but a lot of it's got to be from them, because if they don't buy it, if they don't believe in it, if they don't wholeheartedly, I don't want anybody that's playing wrestler.
Right.
You got to believe it. You got to buy it. And nobody ever walked out and saw Stone Cold go to the ring and said, "That guy's just playing tough guy."
No, you have to believe in yourself 110% to be, in my opinion, someone that will draw money to become a big star. And speaking of big stars, we got another Twitter question which pertains to this exact subject matter. Triple H, do you see anyone on the current roster that has what it takes to be the next John Cena, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, BSR?
I see a lot of guys that I think have... I don't want to sound like Vince, not that that's a bad thing, but where he said, "Well, I hope that guy gets over." But there's a lot of that. You see a guy and you go "Oh, man, he got something, man." And that to me is the biggest thing, is that X factor where you go, something on that guy, right? And he's got that it factor, or girl, Right. I see that with them too. But it's what they do with it, right? And the business is different now. You can't just be a promo guy. You can't just be an in-ring guy with no promo. You can't be an in-ring guy with a decent promo but no personality.
Right.
You got to be a little bit of everything.
You can't just be a big guy.
You can't just be a big guy.
Yeah.
You can't just be a flip-flop and fly guy.
It's like you said, it's all pieces of the puzzle, and you're trying to put this puzzle together. The more pieces you have,
the clearer the picture.
The clearer the picture is. But that being said, to get to the ultimate level, there's a lot of guys that are putting puzzles together, and it's not the best puzzle that could be put together in respect to drawing, being on top.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there's some pretty pictures out there, but not all of them are masterpieces, which are going to be headlining WrestleMania after WrestleMania.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. But also, there's only so far that you can lead a talent, right? I give you the Taker as the example to me. Vince, that was Vince's concept and creation.
Yeah.
Right? And takes it to Mark. And you could have gave that Undertaker character to 100 different guys, and they would have all died a miserable death in that character.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But Mark did what probably nobody else on the planet could do. He took a concept and an idea, put it to himself, and became that, and just took it to something that probably nobody would have ever imagined it being. And even today, when you say that character and you say, well, you know, what it is, it's almost, you know,
yeah.
But it's still the most awesome character probably that there has ever been, bar none, in the business. That's on him. You know, there's only so far you can lead that horse, and at some point in time you got to drink on his own. And I think when Vince is saying he's waiting for those guys to grab the brass ring, you start to move them down a road, or you start to get them to certain places. And there's things they do, and there's things they do well. But when it comes to getting that over the hump thing, man, it's on the guys.
I got bombarded with emails, people asking, what about the brass ring? He goes, it seems like, someone actually said, it seems like they're handing the brass ring to Roman Reigns. Oh, was it handed to him? Or they're dangling it from someone else. They're dangling it from sometimes a Daniel Bryan or a Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah. Here's the thing to me is, when I hear this said sometimes, like, oh, well, that guy worked so hard. Everybody here works hard. All the boys work hard. And I can tell you this, I met Roman when I very first took over developmentally. He just gotten started there. He busts his ass. And anything he's given, whether, you know, perception is it's being pushed on him, whatever that is, he works as hard as anybody else does and deserves everything that he gets, no better than everybody else. This business is not about deserve, work hard. Right. This business is not about, well, he worked hard, so he should be given a chance. That isn't what it's about. And you know that. I know that. Nice guy, it got nothing to do with it. Work hard, got nothing to do with it. Is it a part of it? Absolutely. Should the guy on the top work harder than everybody else? I believe so. I believe there's two ways you go when you get to the top. Some guys look at it and they go like, well, now I can slack off because I'm the guy and I got the stroke, or work harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
John Cena can get criticized all day long. Hardest working guy.
Agreed.
First in, last to leave, will do anything, you know. Couldn't be a more dedicated guy in the business. Can you criticize certain things? Absolutely. Tell me anybody that was ever perfect in the business, did everything right.
All right, folks, let's take a little pause for the calls here and get a word from our sponsors who keep this show on the air for free. I'm coming right back with WWE COO Triple H.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on Podcast One.
Hey, man, do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. Bang! I was thinking about some of our matches way back in the day. I remember on the tour in Germany, you and I were working. Chynna was your bodyguard.
Yeah.
I went over. Chynna comes in the ring. Wham, hit you with a stunner. Wham, hit Chynna with a stunner. Well, somebody didn't like that. And someone jumped in the ring. It was one of the fans. And I'm laying on my stomach, blowed up, sky high, and starts beating the hell out of me. Now I'm thinking I'm just laying there taking the punches. Since I'm a babyface, I'm not going to fight back. And back overseas, a lot of times the boys would play ribs and do just an impromptu run-in.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually a fan beating me up. And so you got up and suplexed the dude off of me and started punching the daylights out of it, yelling for the security to come in and get the guy out of the ring.
That guy was like, he's like 6'8", like what? He's like 300 pounds, too. He was jacked. Like,
dude, he was about 5'6", and he was beating the tar out of me.
Come on to my guest here. This is my story.
The dude was 6'8", he's all of 320. I brought up Chynna.
Yeah.
Man, she had a hell of a run here.
Absolutely.
Will she ever go into the Hall of Fame?
You know, that's one of those questions. Does she deserve to go in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely.
What do you mean it's one of those questions?
Well, that gets asked a lot.
Yeah. I thought it meant like a double-sided edge.
It is a little bit of a double-sided. So you have it's not just as easy as should this person go in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Completely 100% transcended the business, changed the business, paradigm shifter of the business, right? Did what no woman ever did before and was awesome at it and a phenomenal talent. All the other stuff that happened, and I don't need to get into any of the other stuff, right? But there is no beef on this side with anything, and I mean that 100%. And from a career standpoint, should she be in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. Bit difficult, though, and this is the flip side of the coin that nobody looks at. You have I got a 8-year-old kid, and my 8-year-old kid sees Hall of Fame, and my 8-year-old kid goes on the internet to look at, it's Chynna. I never heard of her. I'm 8 years old. I've never heard of that. So I go type that in, and I punch it up, and what comes up? And I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm not criticizing lifestyle choices. Everybody has their reasons. I don't know what they were, and I don't care to know. And it's not a morality thing or anything else. It is just the fact of what it is. That's a difficult choice.
Right.
The Hall of Fame is a funny thing in that it is not as simple as this guy had a really good career, legendary career. He should go in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, but we can't because of this reason.
Right.
We can't because of this legal instance. We can't because of this. Clearly, you can't. You call the guy up and say, we'd like to put you in the Hall of Fame. He goes, yeah, no. Okay, all right. It's different than any Hall of Fame in the world, you know. And at the end of the day, it's for our fans. And that's why it has been such a deal for me in the last few years to go back and I'm such a big fan of the history of the business, and I'm really big into that. And to go back and get Bruno, to go back and get Warrior, especially during the circumstance of how it all went down.
But you're mending fences or bridges that were burned down by those talent or events. Whatever.
By whoever. And
the relationship was damaged.
Yeah, and like with Bruno, you know, I went to Vince one day because I just always felt it was wrong that he wasn't in there. And I just went to Vince one day and I was like, hey, what do you think about Bruno? And he's like, great, should be in there, you know. And I said, it never happened. I said, wait, you okay if I call him?
Was that much heat between them?
No, Vince wasn't angry, but I think he just thought Bruno was so angry. And
what was Bruno angry about?
They had a falling out over a lot of things over the years, and then he didn't agree with...
Well, that's never happened before.
Yeah, and then he didn't agree with where the business went, and, you know, and they just had a lot of bad blood. And, you know, and then it's like, it just kind of goes, I think you're mad at me, and then you think I'm mad at you, so we never talk about it, and we never...
Oh, that's so bad in this business.
It is. It's terrible, and it's because everybody's apart, and they build things up in their minds. It's a work, and this guy's, he's swerving me, and it's the conspiracy theory, and you know, and... When I went to Vince to ask him about Bruno, he was like, you call him if you want. You want to waste your time. Ain't never going to happen. And I worked on that. I worked on that.
What was tougher, getting Bruno in or Warrior? I mean, just getting them back on page with Vince.
Well, they both had their challenges, you know, and it was a lot of listening and a lot of just, I don't think that's how it really, the feeling is this. And, you know, it was just earning trust. Warrior was different because Bruno and I I'd had one time I'd spoke to Bruno ever in my life, and I called him cold, and then we just started to have conversations, and I just, you know, when you're his age, it's a trust issue, and he had to learn he didn't know me, and he had to learn to trust me in a business that long ago didn't have a whole lot of guys that you could trust, and he had to learn to trust me, and you know, he said it at the end, he never once lied to me about any of this, and Warrior was different because we didn't have a trust.
Right.
We had a bad...
He was in that don't trust anybody category.
Without a doubt. And, you know, it's also funny, you know, he and I both said as we went through the process, you live and you learn and you grow. The day you stop growing, the day you stop learning and growing, you're done, right? I was in a different place as a person when I was in WrestleMania with him, which people bring up a lot to me as if it's a sore spot in my career. It wasn't. I had a bad personal experience with a guy at the moment, but it was one of the coolest moments of my life. Vince McMahon came to me prior to WrestleMania 12 and said, hey, no one knows this yet, but the Ultimate Warrior is going to come back, and I'd like you to work with him at WrestleMania. My first WrestleMania was with the Ultimate Warrior. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it was a mind-bogglingly awesome opportunity for me and was still awesome experience. But he and I had a rub then. And then, you know, and then over the years things are said, right, and all that stuff. And so we had to get past that for ourselves, and then we had to get past a whole lot of stuff with him and Vince, and he was a unique cat, right? And but as I stayed open to that process, I realized he was a lot misunderstood. A lot of his anger and his
I think there's a lack of
passion and
communication.
aggression. Yeah, and he didn't know how to communicate.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest issues in the Rift. And boy, all of a sudden, when I go in that DTA mode, it turns into a cluster. And I know he was full of that. And just a few of the conversations that I had with him, but he seemed like a sweetheart of a guy.
He just couldn't let it go.
Right.
You get past it, right? And then he couldn't let it go.
Hey, who do you think was more influential in the business, NWO or DX?
I think that if I said what was influential, the NWO at first was massively influential in that it kind of took this reality slant of the business, with Kevin and Scott going over there and looking like it was this invasion and Hogan jumping in with them. But the massive impact that they had quickly dissipated because they put a bunch of guys in there and it got watered down and it fell apart. So it was massively influential, but it didn't last long. If I had to say over time, DX probably did more things in the various incarnations over a long period of time to influence, the way we did things and were able to take stuff in the business, not take it seriously, but make it serious.
Right.
Goof on something, but yet make it into something you wanted to fight about. And I think that changed stuff over the course of time more. But the NWO was at first, it shifted the business.
If you could go back in time and have a match with anybody you wanted to, who would you pick?
Buddy Rogers.
Why?
It's funny because a lot of guys will probably go home tonight and have to Google Buddy Rogers. And I know you're kind of a fan of that time and that era too, but he was the first guy to me in the business, when I'm a big buff on the history stuff, he was the first guy that transcended, like, he wasn't just a shooter. He wasn't just,
right.
Like it was, he had this look, and then he had the way he carried himself. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he had this way about him, and he was tan, and he had the hair, and he talked the talk, and he walked the walk, and he had the strut, and he did the stuff. But man, he could tell. You hear stories about guys all the time, but he was a guy. If he walked to the ring one way, he was a bad guy. He walked to the ring another way, he was a good guy. He could manipulate the crowd. He had that larger than life thing going, where he just wasn't. A lot of the guys prior to that were just wrestlers, and they were just like a Lou Thez, or I don't mean that as a knock to them. The personality was different. He was the first larger than life. Like, man, he was a character.
Well, I want to go into some word association, but before I do, you've mended fences for Vince with Bruno, with Ultimate Warrior, and you're just a guy that seems very composed and doesn't either burn bridges or hold a grudge. That being said, I got a lot of emails asking about your opinion of CM Punk. He didn't have the greatest things to say for you on a podcast a couple of months ago. What is it with you guys? Or are you cool with him? Or do you have your feelings hurt? What?
No, it's funny. I remember hearing things about him in the, like, when he was first coming in, or I actually think he might have been an OVW at the time. And, like, I remember hearing people say, the big thing is that you hate this CM Punk kid and you were burying him and something like. Honestly, God, and I didn't mean this as a knock to him. I didn't even know who he was. We didn't have time then to watch other stuff and watch other, components of the business. I don't think I'd ever seen him or knew who he was. And I was like, I don't know how I hate this guy. I've never even seen him. I don't even know who he is.
When he went out here in WWE.
And then when he came in here, I think somehow that got carried over. Something, I don't know, to be honest.
Right.
I've never had a beef with him. I never have. And then when we got further in and we worked together, whether it was when he first did the thing where he walked out, dropped the pipe bomb and the whole thing, and we did this storyline, and the Nash was brought in, and it was done for the right reasons, right? I think it was done to get us into him. And get him more over, but we the decisions that were made were Vince's and were made to help him, and then they didn't work out for whatever reason. Nash couldn't hang and couldn't be here, and But I don't know, he held a grudge on that. And he's a weird cat. Like, I don't mean that as a knock, but I mean that as he's hard to get to know. He doesn't talk. He doesn't communicate well. I would hear from everybody in my role now as, talent relations and all that. I would hear to everybody that, oh, my God, he's livid today. He's quitting. He's this. He's that. And I'd go to him and say, what's going on? And I'd get, nothing. Everything's fine, And, okay, it's tough.
Could he ever come back here?
Listen, one guy to ask on that, but never say never. Listen, Bruno's was here. Hogan's been here. If the thing is, if the fans want it, if the WWE Universe wants it, if that's what's best for business, and I don't mean to sound that like it's the cliche, but it's really what's in the best interest of everybody's here. If we can get past it, it's my regret of that we couldn't get past all this stuff with him. But if he didn't want to be here anymore, if this wasn't his passion anymore, then he shouldn't be here. You can't do this job if you don't love it. You can't.
Agreed. Let's move on. Word association. I'm going to throw out some names for you. Just give me a quick opinion. Shawn Michaels.
Greatest in-ring performer ever.
That's what I said. Ric Flair.
Greatest all-around performer, character and everything, all around.
100% agree with you. I got the same answer on both those. Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash, to me, very underrated mind for the business.
He had a great mind for the business.
Awesome mind for the business. He just is sometimes hard to get past his personality of whether he likes you, doesn't like you, and he's very blunt with people. So he just says what he says, and then if you don't like it, too bad.
Scott Hall.
Probably the guy I learned more from walking in the door here than anybody, and one of the most underrated performers in ring, I think. Just an awesome psychologist.
Eddie Guerrero.
Awesome. I miss him. Huge. Was so fun when he would just let go and be Eddie and not be caught in his own mind of insecurities, and you could get him to just let go and be Eddie, man.
Watching him in the ring was magic. And it was the little things that he did that meant so much. And if you know what to look for, you knew that.
Unbelievable. Goldberg, a guy that I would credit a lot with, in some ways, changing that intensity of the business. He had an intensity about him that was just, it's what made people just go like, oh my God, look
explosive.
At that. Right? Yeah, just that explosive intensity that you just, and I think he kind of started to cross that line of like outside athlete kind of thing. That's cool, as opposed to just being a tough guy or something.
Brock Lesnar.
Freak. Yeah.
Straight up. Yeah. You leave it at that. And that's in a positive regard.
Oh, my. Yeah, as positive as I can. Yeah. I've just never experienced anything like it.
He's white hot right now.
Yeah.
And he's right where he needs to be. Paul Heyman, the advocate.
There's a fine line between crazy and genius. He rides that line like a razor blade.
Dude, you put him on, just let him talk. I'm never going to change the channel.
Absolutely.
Owen Hart.
Oh. One of the nicest guys I knew and one of the funniest guys I knew. Again, a tragic situation. Owen was one of those guys to me that was so good in the ring that he could purposely tell you, like, I'm going to go stink the joint out, and then go out there and have the worst match you've ever seen in your life.
He did that on the road a lot.
Oh, my God. Mostly at the expense
It
of
was great
else.
when you could watch it, but when he was doing it with you, which he did that with me a couple times, I was madder than a hornet.
Oh, my God.
He used to piss me off.
Yeah.
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart, unbelievable technician. Maybe sometimes takes himself too seriously.
Man, that guy, I got so much respect for him. He truly lived. Like you were talking a while ago, you've got to believe 100%. He did. Best there is, was, ever will be.
Absolutely.
And he believed that and he lived it.
And in the ring, unbelievable.
I know you got one word for this one. Undertaker.
Respect.
Kane.
Underrated and just, if I had to say one word, he's the constant.
I was going to say solid. I mean, just
the constant,
yes.
And he just here, always great, always, just constant, solid.
Pat Patterson.
Wow. Genius for the business. I respect Pat so much. Man, like one of the guys that when I got in here, and there was a lot of, between the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the George Steeles and all these guys, Pat was the guy that just like every time he opened his mouth, I was like, oh my God, it's like the smartest thing ever.
Yeah, Michael Hayes.
So underrated for his contributions to the business, just across the board.
Man, I'm telling you, I was down there in Denton, Texas, playing football at North Texas State University when the Freebirds came in town to beat up the Von Erichs. I paid my money to go see those guys, and I don't know. That's Hall of Fame right there. I mean, to me, Dallas, I'm just throwing something out there. I mean, I paid my money to see that guy, and I'm a hardcore pro wrestler. Before, I don't want to go on. Pro wrestler is sports entertainment, because there's a big disconnect with you and Vince. I'm a pro wrestler. I was. Where are you?
Well, here's the difference. I understand the distinction between the two, and I also understand the distinction of WWE superstar, pro wrestler. I love wrestling, right? It's what we do. At the end of the day, we get in the ring and we wrestle. It's what we do, and I love it, and I can scientifically break it down, and man, it's the greatest thing in the world sometimes for me to watch that. Also, though, I understand that's limiting. Anybody can play football. You play football in Pee Wee League, you play football junior high. Very few people ever make it to the NFL. You can be a wrestler, you can be a this, you can be a that. Making it to the WWE is different. That's the distinction between being a WWE superstar. Very few guys in the world get to ever say that. And the sports entertainer part of it is because to the general world, outside of people that go, I love pro wrestling, you got to explain to them what it is because they don't know.
Before we wrap up, it's rumored that Brock Lesnar's contract is up after WrestleMania. What is his status? I know he's white hot right now.
Yeah, so we're constantly talking to Brock. It all comes down to Brock, I think, on what Brock Lesnar wants to do, right? And I think in somewhere in his mind he maybe is not sure if he has unfinished business or not.
Right.
I think he loves what he's doing here right now. I think he loves the arrangement. We have a great working relationship.
It works.
Yeah, 100%.
I'd like to see him more, but to Vince's point, it does keep him special because when he comes out and raises hell, it's incredible.
It's awesome, and he is, and we love having him here. But it just comes down to does he wanna? It's
on him.
Yeah, does he have unfinished business?
Let's talk about this last thing. Let's talk about the streak. Should it have been broken or should it have remained?
Boy, that's a debate, right? I mean, I don't know. I can look at it both ways, and I can see the value of both. In some ways, I look at it and I go, man, it's the home run record that just should never be broken, and it's this living, breathing thing that you just, man, it lasts forever. And then on the other side of that is there isn't a guy like Tate, for him to give it back, right, to give all that back and let somebody else benefit off of that.
And Brock
I can see both sides.
I wanted it to remain, but that has come to, and Vince said that.
Yes. You look at what it's done, and not that Brock already wasn't there, but you look at what we have put Brock through to get to where he is now, and this unstoppable monster. All that storyline-wise didn't happen by accident. It's a plan, right? And that was part of it,
So we're going to wrap this thing up. Where are you guys off to tomorrow for SmackDown taping?
Colorado Springs, and then back to the snow, the blizzard, New York.
What do you think about that last play in the Super Bowl? Well, Seattle's failed attempt to try to get into the end zone.
Yeah, I don't know. These guys, sometimes when you're booking a finish,
right,
and you got your finger on the pulse of what's going on, and I can see them on the side, like they think we're going to run. I mean, reality is what I think.
You got the biggest, toughest running back in NFL.
I think they overthought it. I think the Seahawks overthought it. I think when the Pats put their end zone stuff package out there, and they were ready to stop that run, and they said they all think we're going to run it, and we will run it, but that's what we would normally always do, so we're going to go with a pass, and then they just executed it poorly.
Heartbreak. I got somebody in my ear wrapping me up. We're running out of time.
Well, hold on a second. Here's what I don't get. I have zero stroke.
Well, can you get us another 10 minutes?
I can get you 10 minutes because Vince. Who's in your ear? Is it Vince?
No, it's Kevin Dunn.
Yeah, because he's up at Gorilla right now, and no, that's crap. You can't wrap me up. I'm on live TV. Austin's here. Come in here. He'll stun you. Or do
Is Vince
something.
here?
I can. He's here somewhere. I'm sure he is.
Kevin Dunn, we got time. We're going home.
Well, no, we can go 10 more.
We'll get 5 more minutes.
Yeah, 5 more minutes.
Hey, man, I got to talk about promos, man. What is the deal? Man,
I'm gonna get yelled at when we get off here.
Come on, man. I just back in the day, we'd go out there and someone say, "Hey, you got a promo today?" Okay, what am I talking about? I don't know. Listen to the guy who's going to cut a promo against you and respond accordingly. They're so tight, they're so scripted now, and I don't feel like the people have the flexibility to get into a groove and really find who they are because they're regurgitating something rather than saying something, to your point, believing in.
And I think that's just a product of time.
But it's still going on with the advanced talent. Do y'all not trust the talent?
I think there are some guys that want to be scripted fully, and I think there are some guys that like to work on bullet points, and then there are some guys that we script stuff out for, and then they go and change it and put it in their own words and get a feel for it. It's a trust level. It's live TV. It's it's a different era, and we have to be careful with things that are said with sponsors and everybody else and all those things. I think it just was an evolution of time of. This guy's better when you script. And you start scripting. First thing you know, you're scripting everything, and then it's hard to get out of because guys don't have to do it themselves, practice of it, and it's why down at NXT I have tried to go the other route, and they are not always winners, but I try to let the guys come up with their own stuff, help them make it better before they go out there, and then let them do it on their own, and then come back and really guide them on what worked and what didn't work, so that hopefully we can get back to a place where we give guys a premise and some bullets and let them go.
If you could change anything you wanted about Monday Night Raw, what would you change?
Wow.
That many?
No. I just mean, I wish we had more time in the week. If I could change anything, I'd love it to be 2 hours. Third hour of television is so exponentially harder to write. I can't even begin to describe it to you. It just is really difficult. But
Are y'all married to the 3 hours for here on out? Could it ever go back to 2 hours?
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Well, listen, that's a Vince call and a finance and everybody else call that I try to avoid those meetings. At the end of it, listen, I think anything can happen, and I think that it's just a difficult show to write. It makes it a lot harder.
Okay, take time out of it. What would you change? Anything?
I'd like to be able to just take the time to develop stories longer. I wish we could.
And that's easier said than done because of the day and age we're at.
The day and age, it's constant, it's Raw, it's SmackDown, man, it just keeps on rolling, and it's hard. I wish we had a little bit more time to let things. I'm a slow burn. I like that, man. And to me, when you get the payoff on it, it's massive. And I like having that time to do it. There's a little bit of short attention span theater sometimes with fans today, and they want you to get to it now.
But I'm getting a lot of feedback. Some of them want it to take longer.
Yeah, it's funny, and but
mixed bag.
And you can't please everybody. You can't please everybody. But to me, one of the things I would like to see the women get more time and more dedication, because I
have
think
noticed
they have
women
a lot.
down in NXT getting a lot more time, and the matches really benefit from that. They're doing some great work.
They have a
down
lot to
there.
offer, and we have a large fan base of women that watch, and I think they're inspirational. And I think just having them have that time and the stories and all of that. But again, it's so difficult.
When's the last time you were in the ring? Will we see you back?
The last time I was in the ring, I think, was when I was with Evolution. Whatever that was, June or something. You'll see me back.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. I don't want to give anything
Not
away.
answer.
I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, it's coming. Either that or I'm training twice a day for nothing.
How's the training going?
Training's going great. I feel great. We were talking about it earlier, and I made the comment to you that I had heard an old timer tell me once a long time ago, motion is the lotion.
Keep moving.
Yeah, you got to keep moving. I've adapted how I train, but I don't have, we talked about that. I mean, I don't have aches and pains. I don't have the pain level. I can I can do anything. I move around, play with my kids. It's all awesome. I know you are.
As long
too.
as you can play with the kids, you're doing good.
That's it.
All right, everybody, give me to go home. Cue time to wrap up the podcast right off the sunset. Don't forget to rate and review the Steve Austin Show on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends to check us out. If you want to reach me here on the podcast, send an email to questions@steveaustinshow.com. I want to thank everybody for supporting Broken Skull IPA, my beer from El Segundo Brewing Company. And we're in 17 states across the nation, and it has been received to critical acclaim. It's the best IPA in America, in my opinion, and I want to thank everybody for their support. I'm trying to give everybody I can a hell yeah, a cheers, or a thank you, whatever, when you post pictures on Instagram or Twitter. Just thanks for supporting the beer. I'm real proud of it. And we developed this beer, going over almost 5 years ago. And it's starting to roll out. And we're looking to expand more as we get through these hard times. Thank you guys so much for the support of the beer. I love it. I'm proud of it. And I think it's a damn good IPA. I'd like to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show, especially BetOnline, White Castle, Geico, Right Guard, and ZipRecruiter. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. Please support them because they support us. If you need more info, check out the show description to this episode for details. Folks, we're going through some tough times. We've got to do some social distancing, follow the protocol set forth by, everybody you're watching on the news. We got to get through this so we can flatten the curve and make it on the other side and get our lives back to normal as soon as possible and get people back to work. This is affecting every single one of us, man, and we got to listen up and do our part. If you see me out in the woods, I'll be proudly riding a Kawasaki. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Thank you for joining us for another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show. Please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends. For more Steve Austin Show, go to PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
With currently no NBA, NHL, or MLB, you might think there's nothing to bet on. Well, you'd be wrong. This week, Wrestlemania 36 takes center stage for a mammoth two-night event, Saturday, April 4th and Sunday, April 5th, hosted by the Rob Gronkowski. Our exclusive partner, BetOnline, has all the WrestleMania 36 action, including a feud that blew up at Raw, including biting, blood, and now a title shot. Of course, I'm talking about Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. Lynch walks into this match with her confidence sky high, but the Queen of Spades might have a little surprise in store. This one is personal, and Baszler is Lynch's toughest opponent to date. One thing we can count on is an all-out brawl. Lynch versus Baszler. It doesn't get any better. Go to BetOnline for all your WrestleMania 36 action. Every match, all weekend long. Visit the website or use your mobile device and join today to receive a welcome bonus with your first deposit. BetOnline, your online WrestleMania 36 wagering solution.